down the rabbit hole of rock and roll's past, present, and future. It's Barstool Rockers with your hosts, Jim Finn and Dan Michaels.
Did you have a good New Year's?
You know, the biggest challenge we had was figuring out what to wear while sitting on the couch all night.
Couch wear.
It was quite possibly one of the most enjoyable New Year's in a very long time. We didn't do a damn thing.
Well, that's the best when you don't do anything. And I saw some postings on Facebook. You posted a few pictures, or your girlfriend posted a few pictures, and there were many animals that were on the couch with you.
Yes.
And I think you've actually got more animals in your household than we have in our household.
There are 2 cats and a dog. And they all 3 were on top of me Sunday, and then for New Year's Eve, they all hopped up on her, and they were just the one was kind of tucked in the blanket with her, and Pup was right next to her, and the other one was right up over her shoulder. So
nice and cozy,
made for a nice New Year's. Yeah.
Does the dog get along with the cats?
You know, yesterday I was laying on the couch, and one of the cats was laying on my chest. The dog came up and was being all friendly. And the cat actually reached her paw out and touched the dog's snout. And it lasted for about 3 seconds before the dog started into...
Not having this.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway. So a big week at hand here. Not only 2 podcasts, but a large weekend ahead of us.
Oh, yeah, man. You know, I mean, this is something I always look forward to. Every January, we make the pilgrimage to Lake Delton to see the special Robin Zander shows. Robin gets up on stage with his kids, his brood, as it were. Robin Taylor Zander, Holland Zander, and Ian Zander, and his good friend Brian Beebe, who used to be one half of the duo known as Zander and Kent. And that's what Robin was doing in the years just prior to joining Cheap Trick. So this week on the podcast, I thought,
let's talk to Zeno.
He's next on the list. Mr. Zeno, he'll be next on the list. But no, I figured let's talk to the other half of Zander Kent. So we had a chance to have a phone call conversation with Mr. Brian Beebe.
Hi, how are you, man?
I'm doing well.
Eau Claire, huh?
Eau Claire, Wisconsin, a city that is so awesome. Cheap Trick has not only 1, but 2 songs about it. So, or at least that's the way I like to think about it anyway.
Yeah. Well, Robin and I used to play. We played at a couple of places in Eau Claire on Water Street, the Brat House.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Brat Cabin.
Yeah. Wow.
Down in the basement. Did you ever go down there?
I've been down there, yeah, but it was many years ago.
Yeah, well, so was our thing. We played there in the 70s, man.
That's crazy. Well, hey, thanks for taking some time and chatting with us today, because these shows that have been going on at Monk's now for how many years?
We started in 2014 with 1 show.
Okay.
September, and then I think it's maybe 1 more year we did 1, and then it's been 2 or 3 shows ever since.
Gotcha. They are incredible. They're a good time. My wife and I have been going for, I think, the past 3 years now, and we always have a fantastic time there.
Thank you.
I want to go back and start with Brian Beebe when Brian Beebe was young, okay?
Okay.
So what was it that made you want to become a musician?
Oh, you know what? I don't remember the original feeling, but I saved up money and bought a guitar from Sears when I was 9. And the Beatles didn't come till I was 12. But I would say it was the Beatles that really kind of was the springboard, the jumping off point of all of it,
Yeah. So you started with guitar and then learned piano later on?
Yeah, I taught myself guitar, and then I taught myself piano from the guitar.
When you and Robin Zander first met, how did you guys meet originally?
Well, we went to high school together, but I actually knew him when we were much younger. I met him at a spelling bee in 5th grade. And then he was in a couple of different bands that I would go see. Back then, we'd all go see each other's bands, playing in garages and stuff, And so I saw him a number of times before he got to high school. But we were in choir together. That's kind of where we really got to know each other well.
Well, who was a better speller, you or Robin?
Well, I think I won mine. I don't know how his came out.
Then when did you guys start Zander and Kent, which was a duo that played around the Wisconsin Dells area quite a bit back in the 70s? When did that all begin?
Well, in 1970, the summer, we went up there and banged around and auditioned for a job that started. We actually started in 1971, and the name came shortly thereafter.
And so this was probably what, maybe 4 years before Robin joined Cheap Trick?
Yeah,
somewhere around there.
He joined in the fall of '74, and we played summers '71, '2, '3, and '4, and then he joined them in the fall. And
which places in the Dells were you pretty much playing? Which clubs?
Well, we only played one. Every summer we played this one called the Lookout Lounge, which is downtown. If you go down there now, Wizard Quest is in that same spot.
So that's where Wizard Quest is now. Okay, all right. So they put up a Wizard Quest where a historic landmark basically was.
Yeah, that building was very old. It came around in the early 1900s. It was called the Wharf, and it had to do with the boats, on the boat tours. And it had 2 bars in it when we started, the Beer Keg, and we did, in 1973, they knocked out the wall and combined the 2, and we played in the big room. But yeah, it was, we auditioned for that job too. And oddly enough, this year at the Robin shows, we're going to do one of the standout songs that I remember from our audition. Like, it was so wrong. It seemed so wrong for the audition part that I remembered us doing it, because we both loved the song, but it just didn't seem right for our audition in an afternoon in this place, kind of almost all by ourselves.
But now these shows that you've been doing for a few years now with Robin at Monk's in Lake Delton, they are such an incredible evening. I mean, it's you and Robin, and then Robin has his kids, Holland and Robin Taylor and Ian. They've all joined in, and they're just such special shows, and it's so intimate. And my wife and I have been going for at least a few years now, and we really enjoy them. When Zander and Kent was playing those gigs then, were you pretty much playing the music of the day? I mean, what kind of stuff were you playing? I know.
Yeah, right. I remember a friend of mine, there was a CD going around a few years ago of Labor Day 1973, live at the Lookout Lounge, and a friend of mine listened to it. He said, "Boy, you guys played a lot of oldies." And then I reminded them that they were new songs at the time. Lots of Neil Young and David Bowie, and we even tried some Chicago things and some Eagles things, and so
I think I've heard some Bee Gees stuff.
Whatever's going on.
Yeah.
What's that?
I think I heard some Bee Gees stuff at some of the special Monk shows. Yeah. All right. So then you guys actually did a tour of Scotland?
Well, no, we just went over there. My wife, to be my girlfriend at the time, was from Scotland, and her father knew some guys in the music industry, so we went over there to kind of get discovered. We played a few places, but it wasn't a tour of Scotland,
A visit to Scotland.
Yes, we did some recording down in London, and we played a couple of bars, like up in Newcastle and in Scotland, and so I mean, but we didn't. It wasn't a tour. We were just trying to have some fun and get famous.
Brian, tell us about what those shows were like in the Dells at the Lookout Lounge with Zander and Kent. what was the vibe back then?
Well, it was, in the early 70s, it seemed like there was a lot of stoners around. But we both played guitar. He played acoustic guitar and played rhythm, and it was kind of a nice full sound that he made. And then I played lead guitar on electric on top of that, and then I played some piano. He played a little bit of piano too. It was pretty much packed with those kids that worked in the Dells.
Yeah.
Which was, they were all in their 20, 21 years old,
And the Dells was a completely different place back then, because now when winter rolls around in the Dells, it's only slightly different than the summer months, because back then the Dells in the winter would basically become a ghost town.
Yeah, it closed up Labor Day and opened up Memorial Day. And you could shoot a cannon down the strip there and not hit anything. But and that's kind of an interesting thing now, because I played this place called Sorrento's. It's an Italian restaurant that I've been at 13 years doing my solo thing, and we're busier in the winter now than we ever are in the summer, because of the local people. They don't like to come out in the summer and compete with the tourists and the crowds and stuff, so they come out big time in the off season.
Yeah, I believe it. Just now, do you live in the Dells, or do you live in Madison, or just somewhere around the area?
No, I live right between the Dells and Reedsburg, out in the country.
Okay. All right, so let's go back again to the Zander and Kent days. So you guys are doing this show. You're performing as a duo, doing all these songs. Did you know any of the other Cheap Trick guys, like Rick or Tom or Bunny, before they came knocking for Robin?
Yes. Robin and Bunny and me and Rick Pemberton, who plays in Bunny's Monday Night Band now in Rockford, and another guy were in a band in 1970, and we played junior high school rec nights for a whole school year, playing all this heavy, loud rock and roll for kids who just didn't get it, but it was a chance for us to play some stuff we liked,
And Cheap Trick at that time had a different lead singer by the name of Zeno. So
Cheap Trick started in 73, actually. I'm talking about this band that Bunny and Robin and I had was 1970, so it was quite a few years before Cheap Trick was even thought of. There was a band called Fuse, and Robin and Bunny both played in different versions of Fuse before Cheap Trick, but 73. There was a guy named Zeno who was also in our high school choir that sang lead for Cheap Trick before Robin was free to do.
And then Cheap Trick decided they needed a new singer, and that's when they started looking for Robin?
No, my theory, Jim, is, and I don't have confirmation of this, but I'm pretty good at guessing this sort of thing, is they came up in 1973 and looked at Robin and I, and they chose Robin, but he wasn't free to join Cheap Trick at the time because we still had a signed contract to play another summer in the Dells.
Sure.
So I think Robin, because we both knew Randy Hogan, who was Zeno, from high school, kind of told him to get Zeno until he would be free. And I think Zeno, as great as the guy is, was kind of a placeholder for Robin.
Sure.
Until he got free to join up.
When Cheap Trick then enlisted Robin and Zander and Kent had to, well, basically disappear.
Right.
How did you feel about that? I mean, here's your buddy, here's this guy that you're in this duo with, and Presumably, I'm assuming you guys were having a good time. Were you happy for Robin that he was going to be joining? And this is way before Cheap Trick became a household name.
Right. There was 2 or 3 years where they played, 300 nights a year around the Midwest before they took off. But no, I don't remember any bitterness or anything like that because, first of all, we both dreamed about this, being in a good band and heading towards the promised land, and it was pleasant for me to see that at least one of us got there. And at the beginning of 1974, I remember distinctly telling Robin that, if we've tried a few things, we had been to Europe and that, and if we weren't famous by the end of 1974, I was going to do something else. I wanted to get married, and I had a chance to open up a bar, which happened at the exact same time as Robin joined Cheap Trick. I opened up this bar in Lake Delton, and that took up most of my consciousness anyway,
So have you been there the whole time then, around the Lake Delton area, or did you move?
No, I've been here every summer since 1971, but I did spend 20 winters playing down in Florida.
And now you mentioned that you do play a regular show at Sorrento's, which is very cool.
Right.
It's always good to see you at these special shows with Robin coming up at Monk's. How did the idea for these shows originally come about?
Well, when they built Monk's and they decided to put this 180-seat theater in the basement, which I thought was really cool, high ceilings, and it's a beautiful theater. You've been there.
Yeah.
And very intimate, like you said. I said to myself, and I said to Dan Collar, who is a part owner of the Monks, I said, this would be a great place to have something like an intimate evening with Robin Zander. And I thought I could put that together, but every time I mentioned it to Robin, he said, well, would it have to be an intimate evening with Robin and Brian, wouldn't it? And I thought he was just kind of joking and blowing that off, So it went away for a couple of years, and then Dan Collar was listening to an interview that I did on a Cheap Trick web fan site, and the idea came, full scale back to him, and he started to get excited about it. And so we started talking, and I said, well, maybe if we make him a really good financial offer, he might consider it. And sure enough, he did. And so the first show came about in September of 2014, and he enjoyed that so much, and being amongst a lot of old friends and stuff like that, that he agreed to do another and another and another, and the rest is history.
Well, when we're talking about a guy that, as far as I'm concerned, he is one of rock and roll's greatest vocalists. And when we're talking about someone that's blessed with a talent like that, he has always seemed, to me anyway, I don't know him as well as you do, of course, but he has always seemed to me as an incredibly down-to-earth and loyal guy.
Yeah. If you've been to some of these shows in the last 2 or 3 years, you've seen something that I couldn't believe it. He gets off the stage and just wades out into the crowd at the end of the show, and it's a meet and greet with 200 people. Signs things and takes pictures and shakes hands, and for 45 minutes they just kind of bully him around, and it's Robin. He has to have a security guard standing next to him. But so the first time he did that, I said, wow. And then the next night, I would never have expected him to do that again, and he did. So, I mean, he is a generous, loyal guy. And when I asked him why he wants to, put himself through that, he says, they deserve it. They pay for the tickets and the crowd, and plus there's a lot of people in the crowd that he knows, pretty well.
I think Dan Collar had mentioned a story to me, and he said to me that actually I should ask you for the story. So, there was a show that Robin had problems actually getting to the venue because of some type of flight delay or something.
Yeah, that was the first or the second. That a guy set himself on fire at O'Hare.
Oh boy!
And caused all the flights to be canceled out of O'Hare, and so Robin was in Detroit at the time, and so he couldn't catch a connecting flight, and so him, his wife, and his son rented a car and drove 8 hours, which we along the way we would talk, and finally it was decided that we'd have to tell the crowd that the show would start in like an hour late.
Mm-hmm.
No rehearsal, no setup, nothing, no sound check. But everybody that had paid for a ticket was upstairs and had an extra drink, and everything was fine, When they finally came downstairs and the show started an hour late, everybody was, so thankful that it didn't get canceled completely, you know?
Now that, to me, that is the sign of a true professional, and that he is definitely dedicated to something like that. A lot of people a lot of celebrities would just bail and say, well, I can't make it. So,
oddly enough, Jim, I have phone messages still on my phone that Robin had called and said, we're driving, we're on the way, we're going to be delayed this much, and blah, blah, blah. And, but yeah, he for some reason really feels the call, to honor it. And of course, these guys get paid to travel, and they play for nothing. The traveling is always has been the toughest part for them.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, Brian, I have been a Cheap Trick fan since 1977, since when they released their first album, which I heard for the very first time. It's going to date me, but I'm going to say it anyway, on an 8-track. And later on, down the road, because I was such a Cheap Trick geek, I learned about even more of the lore, the Cheap Trick lore, and I did find out about Zander and Kent. So I have listened to many Zander and Kent songs on YouTube. In a lot of hours have been spent listening to you guys, and I'm really looking forward. I'm looking forward to hearing this audition piece when you play these shows at Monk's coming up, because that will definitely be well worth the price of admission. Now, do you?
Oh, it will be, because it's one of them that I've been asking Robin if we could do for a number of years now, because I always suggest a few songs from our catalog years ago, and he has the final say, of course, but he never used this one before, and we're using it this year, and I'm pretty excited about a lot of the songs that we're going to do this year from our old days.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And you just answered one of my other questions, which was if you make suggestions to the set list, and it sounds like you have quite a bit of input. And not only are all of you guys incredibly talented when you get up there on stage, I mean, sometimes his daughter Holland just blows my mind with her voice. She is such an amazing vocalist.
Yeah, I've known her since she was born. Before she was born, actually, because we fixed up the nursery in his house for his wife to bring the baby home.
Wow.
Before she was born. So, but yeah, she's going to be there this year and do some songs. I think her band is going to play on Sunday night.
Okay.
Some, but she'll be doing some songs with her dad and the other nights, and hopefully with me. I play a little bit before the show starts, and kind of an opening act thing, and I hope she joins me. Ian's going to, so that'll be fun.
He has to be a very proud father, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. And boy, did he teach these kids well. They're fabulous musicians, huh?
Oh, amazing. Brian, thank you so much for taking time to talk with us today. And
my pleasure.
Look forward to the shows at Monk's. And a special thank you to you, to Robin, to his kids, and to Dan Collar for putting these shows together, because to be able to see someone who has been the soundtrack, his voice has been the soundtrack of my life for as long as I can remember, and
plus a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, man.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
Exactly. They are truly special evenings. So, Brian, again, thank you. And I'm going to have to chat with you at one of the shows. So,
yeah, let's hang out when you come this year.
All right, Brian, thank you for talking with us today, okay?
See you, Jim.
So this will be a full circle opportunity for Brian and Robin coming up here in a few short days.
Yeah, and it's really cool because as we talked about in the interview, it's just really cool to see a rock star of such
large shoes.
Yeah, such fame to be so loyal to one of his friends that he started out with before he hit the big time. So, and it's kind of cool because, they spent a lot of days playing in the Dells area. And so to see it, come back full circle and to see Mr. Zander come back to the Dells and play these shows, it just makes you feel good.
It's kind of rare anymore to see, somebody who hits fame at a level that somebody like Zander does and still stays connected to the people who helped build the foundation for him.
Exactly.
A lot of folks don't do that these days.
Nope.
A lot of them, and I can start naming them off here real quick.
We'll have a full episode of just that.
Hey, if you enjoyed what we do on the podcast, of course, it's called Barstool Rockers. Please consider giving us a rating over on iTunes, or is it Apple Podcasts now? I can't remember what. Spotify, the iHeartRadio app, wherever you're listening to us. All the positive reviews go very, very far. We do want to thank Anastasia Vishnevsky for the music we chat around, and our good buddy Joe Kelly. We refer to him as El Cajones, the man with a wheelbarrow in front of himself.
Indeed.
If you know somebody who may enjoy what we're doing, please share today's episode with them. And for more info, you can contact us, barstoolrockers@gmail.com. The website is barstoolrockers.com, and we've got Facebook and all those other funky things too. Until we meet again, ladies and gentlemen.
And may the Schwartz be with you.